Are you in a relationship where all of a sudden now you're finding yourself arguing more than having good times, having good conversations? In fact, you'd rather stay at work than go home because you just don't want to deal with the stress that goes on. Or maybe you're just finding yourself that you're becoming more like roommates than friends. The years has passed by. You guys may be both very busy with having children, having life, or have a career. You may be a business professional or a business owner, and you're finding yourself that just the stress from work and just not finding that work life balance is just causing your marriage to break apart. And today's video, I'm going to help you on some tips that will help you become a better communicator. And the way this came about is that myself seeing clients for couples coaching, I there's the number one theme is communication. There's just a breakdown in communication. And in today's video, I'm going to share some tips that I find very useful in helping couples become better communicators and increase intimacy in their relationship. The first one is to pay attention. Turn off that phone, turn off that TV, make sure there's no distractions. If you and your loved one is having a conversation where, especially if there's a disagreement, you want to be in a place that's quiet where you both can really concentrate on what each other is saying. Don't be distracted on your phone, because that's just rude, and it really shows that you're not really active listening, and this is why you're in the predicament. If you're the type of person that's just looking at your phone or looking at the TV or just can't look at your spouse when you're talking, that is one of the biggest issues that you have. So if you want to stop being miserable and really want to work on things in your relationship, highly recommend to really, really pay attention to your spouse when they're speaking to you. The second tip, this is big. You're going to want to write this one down. Seek to understand rather than be understood. This is the biggest thing that happens in arguments. It's where, both of the couples are getting triggered, they become very defensive, and when the spouse is trying to explain something to you, you either dismiss them, you either give them an explanation, you give them your viewpoint, and the very thing that you're doing is the opposite of communication and the opposite of listening. By asking questions rather than forcing your viewpoint on your loved one, it's going to create this atmosphere where the other person is feeling heard, and you're going to have more of a better interaction when this occurs. And also, something I learned, I was bad at this. I'll be honest, I was bad at this. But when I learned this was huge, to ask questions rather than assume. Because remember, you both are two different individuals. You both have different backgrounds. You both have different experiences. So things that you see, experience, and feel is not going to be the same way as your spouse viewing it. And this is one of the biggest issues that happen in couples that reach out to me for help, is that they're not seeing things eye to eye. And the way to decode this is to seek to understand rather than be understood. The third tip is to look at the positive qualities. One of the exercises I do with my couples is to write down every day something you're grateful about your spouse. Because something I learned is that it's impossible to be in the state of gratitude and a state of resentment at the same time. So if you're finding yourself being resentful all the time, rather than thinking of all the negative things that's pissing you off about your loved one, think of the positive things, and you'll be amazed how this little switch will help you become a better person and a better listener when you're communicating with each other. The fourth one is active listening. This is part of seeking to understand rather than to be understood, to really listen to what your loved one's saying. And this is the key. Try to hear what the feeling or the emotion that they are feeling that they're trying to express. So for example, your wife might tell you, you never do anything. I'm always the one doing stuff around the house. I feel like a maid. I'm putting the dishes away all the time. Or you might hear the husband, say, you're shopping all the time. You just waste all our money. And it's not the action that the person's pissed off at. It's there's something deeper. And by asking these questions, seeking to understand rather than understood, you may get the feeling of what the person is feeling. So for example, for the example with the husband, you might say, I can feel how you may be frustrated or upset. You see, what you're doing is that you're identifying and that you're basically stating to your loved one that you're listening to them. And this is huge, man. This will cause walls come troubling down. Vice versa with the wife. I could feel like how you may feel disrespected and that we may be taking advantage of you. You see, you're getting to the root of what the feeling is. And this will help you really decode and de escalate the argument very quickly. The next thing you can do is avoid criticism. If you guys are going to sit there and complain and have a tick for tack, you might as well not even have the conversation because it's not going to go anywhere. You're just going to get very defensive. So rather than criticizing, it goes back to thinking of the positive qualities, address the action or the behavior that's bothering you, but don't attack the person. This is another thing that I learned that was huge. Whenever a person feels like their identity, who they are, is being attacked, they will become very defensive. So when you criticize a person, you are attacking their identity and it's not going to get anywhere. The next tip that you can do is to avoid blaming and try to work out solutions. Obviously you're seeing this situation differently, and just sitting there having a battle of who's right is going to get you nowhere. I remember one of my pastors said, or actually my church that I go to, he says, be kind, not right. And this is huge. If you can have this mindset of just, rather than being right, just being kind to your love. This is your partner. This is the person you're choosing to live life together. Having this mindset is going to shift things away. So rather than blaming things, something I tell my wife all the time when we have a disagreement is I'll say, look, babe, we obviously see these things in different viewpoints, but this is the big picture. What is the big picture? And work out a solution, compromise on somewhere where you both can meet in the middle. Because this is your relationship. This is your loved one. And if you really want it to work, these tips on becoming a better communicator can help you. Hope this adds a lot of value. Love you guys.